We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
All right. Can you hear me okay? All right, good. So yeah, I'm teaching from the retreat house today, and I'm spotlighted so you can't see the others, but Isadora is here, Shauna is here, and Shiryl is here. Um, so I want to apologize to you all in advance because what you're looking at on the TV is my screen, so you're going to see what I'm doing. But you get to look at me right here. You guys will always see me no matter what I'm doing, so everything is good. So today's gathering, I titled "To Work or to Rest." That is the question, and it's somewhat like to be or not to be, right? To work would be not to be, to rest would be to be. So to work or to rest, that is the question. So let me share the statement of purpose for today's gathering. We affirm one true self as the only truth. We live this value by embracing what is helpful on the path of awakening without idolizing any spiritual doctrine as truth. Okay, I have a confession to make. That's not it. I think I forgot to change my notes. I think when I was building my notes for today's gathering, I totally forgot to put in the statement of purpose. So, and off the top of my head, I can't really think of one that fits for today. So maybe that's okay. What we're going to look at today is we're going to look at some ideas that keep us from joining in our own spiritual practice, from doing whatever phase we're at, you know, whether we're in Gentle Healing 1, Gentle Healing 2, Gentle Healing 3, the Minister Preparation Program, or we're doing our own thing. Whatever our current practice is, there's an obstacle that sometimes gets in the way of that practice. And the obstacle is that this is work. And I don't want to work right now. So that's what we're going to look at today. But before I get into that, let me share the announcements that Jacqueline has given me to share. The first announcement is that when we did our retreat survey last year, one of the pieces of feedback that we got from people is that they would like us to do some weekend retreats. All of our retreats last year, except for one, I think, were Monday through Friday. So this year we have put some weekend retreats on the schedule, and the first one is coming up this month, at the end of the month though, so there's still plenty of time. It's a 3-day weekend retreat. It's an excellent weekend retreat for the way the world is right now, because this retreat is called Letting Go of Fear. And in case you guys haven't noticed, there's a heck of a lot of fear going on in the world right now. So the Letting Go of Fear retreat will be held right here at the Retreat House in La Vita at the end of this month, March 27th through 29th. That's a Friday through Sunday. Also on March 26th, the Thursday just before the retreat, if someone wanted to come and arrive early, we have an optional outing so that we can just get together and be together here in lovely Colorado. But the retreat itself is March 27th to 29th. And at this retreat, you're going to get a better understanding about what fear is, what causes fear, and you're going to learn how to become free of fear, how to let go of it. And we're going to do that based on my own personal experience, based on the guidance that I received within when I was letting go of fear, letting go of psychological fear. I'm going to share with you at that retreat everything that Holy Spirit shared with me to help me through my fearful times. If you'd like to join us for this retreat, just go to our website, look under retreats and classes, and then look under the retreats menu, and you'll find all of the information there. Also, for a few years now, we have been one of the available charities on Amazon Smile. And we'd like to remind you that when you do your shopping on Amazon, to use Amazon Smile to select Awakening Together as your charity. And part of your purchase price will be donated by Amazon to Awakening Together. And you still get all of the same Amazon benefits. You still get to use Amazon Prime. You get the same prices. There's no change for you. This is a donation that's coming from Amazon. But again, you have to use smile.amazon.com. And then what Jacqueline has written here on the announcement, which was news to me, because you know there's an Amazon app you can use on your phone. And I think sometimes people said the reason they didn't use Amazon Smile is because they used the app and they couldn't use Amazon Smile from the app. But Jacqueline says Amazon Smile is now available in the Amazon shopping app. So that's no longer an excuse. She says all you have to do is tap on the main menu in the Amazon app and then tap on settings and tap on Amazon Smile and then follow the instructions that come up there in order to turn on Amazon Smile on your app. And then you can shop from Amazon Smile from the app as well. Again, that was, once you get in the Amazon app, you want to tap on the main menu, tap on settings, tap on Amazon Smile. That's pretty easy. And then follow the instructions from there. Also, last Sunday night, I went over our financial report for last year. So some of you may have been here for that special member meeting, or some of you may have listened to the audio. If you missed the financial report for the year and you'd like to look at it, all of the financial reports are on our website, all of them from the year we began, 2013. You just go to the to read menu, governance documents, and then you'll find the link to the financial reports. If you were here last week when I went over the report, I'm sure you noticed that donations are a very important part of how we make ends meet here. As a church, of course, the majority of our services that we provide are free. In fact, some of the things, a few of the things that we provide that are free are these weekly gatherings, gentle healing, and we have, Gentle Healing 1, Gentle Healing 2, and Gentle Healing 3 classes running with a lot of people in Gentle Healing. It's all offered freely. We have hundreds of teaching audios on our website, as well as the other resources on our website, those daily emails that we send out. Awakening Together Radio is provided freely. This online sanctuary is provided freely. Our sanctuary administration is provided freely. And much more than that. However, none of those things are free to provide. Every single one of them has a cost associated. So as we begin this new year, we'd like to remind you that donations are a very important part of how we operate here in Awakening Together. So please go within, ask for guidance about how you are to give to Awakening Together. And then trust whatever guidance comes. We trust that guidance. We trust that the donations that we get, although your name may be attached to the donation when we receive it, we actually trust that all of our donations are coming from consciousness, from the right mind of consciousness. So check within, see what your part in that giving is, and we're certain that Awakening Together will receive everything it needs to continue. And thank you in advance. Also, some of you may be aware that this is my last month as the president minister. I'm asking you, if you don't mind, to please join me on Sunday, March 22 at 8 p.m. To discuss a movie. You'll need to watch the movie before then, but it's for a movie discussion group. But this month we're going to discuss the movie Shall We Dance, which is the movie that I was guided to see the day that I received that calling. The day that I had that vision about passing out the candles, which many of you know about. I received that calling to write with Holy Spirit, to teach what I write. So I would love it if you all would watch the movie this month and join us for the discussion, because Awakening Together is entering into a new phase with me retiring from the president minister position. And I would like to look at Shall We Dance with you and talk about what your part might be in this new phase that Awakening Together is entering into. There is a movie play sheet that I created. You can find that underneath audios and videos, sanctuary highlights, and the movie discussion group. Or you can just go to read under 18 News and scroll down and find where I put the movie play sheet. And what I'm going to do now is play the trailer for the movie. So let me share my screen. Oops, wait, let me stop my share. I shared my screen wrong because lately Don has been playing all of my music for me and I forgot how to do it right. So let me start over. Doesn't take long for this brain to forget things. All right, so it's interesting. The movie is about dancing, and I'm sure some of you guys have heard that guidance means God, you and I dance. Guidance. And this is the movie that Holy Spirit sent me to see the day that I was really beginning a life of guidance. I learned in that movie everything I needed to know about following guidance. And so, again, if you all will watch the movie this month and then join me on March 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to discuss it, we'll look and see what value that movie has about following guidance. So now it's time for us to enter into the devotional part of our service. And Don is going to play, it's actually 3 songs for us in a row. They're all by a man named Jonathan Mann. Jonathan's kind of an interesting character. I don't know where he lives. I imagine him living in the basement of his parents' house. I don't know where he lives, but you might see why I imagine that when you see these songs. And what John does is he writes a song a day and puts it on YouTube, and he's been doing it for 11 years. Every day, a new song. So these are 3 of his songs right in a row that have to do with today's gathering. So Don, please take it away. So everyone here is interested in awakening to the true self. I don't think they would be here otherwise. There are other places to be, other things to do. Spring is in the air. We could go outside. So there's an inner devotion that's present. But A Course in Miracles describes our mind as split, which means there's a resistance that's present too. Since we are more devoted to the devotion than we are to the resistance, we want to bring the resistance into the light and see it for what it is, so that we can see it as meaningless and apply ourselves fully, lovingly, joyously to the inner devotion, to the inner call. Amen. And now what I would like to do is turn the mic over to Reverend Ruby Nasser. She's going to read some excerpts from my 7 Steps journal. Primarily, I believe these are from Step 6. Is Ruby here, Don? Do you see her? No. Okay, well then I would like to turn this mic over to, who wants to come in and read? To Shiryl Kaplan. And she's going to read for us. I don't know if you can read better on my screen or up there, whichever.
You know what? Actually, here.
Okay. Okay, so I'll turn it over here so they can see you reading. There you go. And remember, you're reading into my mic, so, keep your voice loud.
Got it.
Got it.
To work or to rest? Excuse me. That is the question. adapted from Regina's 7 Steps journal. When I first started step 4 in the 7 steps to awakening, I uncovered a desire to be distracted. The desire to be distracted sees the practice of awakening as, quote, work that I do, and it wants to rest from work. Wanting to rest from work is a reasonable idea. Instead of trying to shift to a mindset that does not permit rest, why not look more honestly and realize that spiritual practice is rest? It is joyous rest. Let me repeat that because it's actually in the form of a question. Instead of trying to shift to a mindset that does not permit rest, why not look more honestly and realize that spiritual practice is rest? It is joyous rest. Where has this attitude that spiritual practice is work come from? What is it? What is its root? I need to go a little closer. There we go. Perfect. There seems to be an idea that I don't want to do it. It is something I have to do in order to get a desired result. I see 2 things here. One, who is this I that does not want to do it? Clearly, it is the mind. It is thought. 2, in the idea of a desired result, there is the thought that I need to work hard now to get what I want someday. What is spiritual practice? Spiritual practice is resting from the mind. One lets go of a false belief, idea, or story by resting from the mind. When in contemplation, one rests from the mind and the world. One rests deeply during meditation. And in resting, one achieves the desired result immediately. What other ideas?
Sorry. Where did it go? That's funny, it disappeared. One moment, guys, the reading just disappeared from my screen. There it is. I don't know where it went, but it's back.
What other ideas support the idea that spiritual practice is work? There is the idea that I have to do it just right. And again, there is the idea that I have to do it just right in order to get the desired result. I notice the fear that I am not able to do this right, that my method of inquiry isn't right, my method of meditation isn't right, that my method of watching awareness isn't right, that my way of spending time isn't right. What is just right? The belief is that just right is beyond my grasp, something I cannot do outside of my reach. So there we have it. If just right is necessary and outside of my capability, I must work very, very hard, trying and yet never getting there. No wonder I need a rest. No wonder there is a desire for distraction. Am I too concerned with hiking up this mountain the right way? Sure, there are tips from previous hikers that are helpful, but couldn't concern for the right way because me to second guess what feels natural and lead to confusion. And that was in the form of a question. I apologize for not reiterating that. I think that's the right word. If the truth be told, I don't know what right is. Awakening from illusion is uncharted territory for me. All I've got to guide me is my intuition. So I think I will just be quiet and follow the only thing I've got. I feel like I'm starting over. There has been an idea at the base of my spiritual practice, which is an obstacle in itself. And yet, because it was the foundation of all my ideas about practice, I am not quite sure how to continue without it. How can I continue without the idea I have to do it right to get the desired result? The only thing that comes to me is to be in love with truth. Always, in every moment, be in love with truth. And so, I make this promise. I promise to let myself be led by love within an experience of joy to the full and complete realization of self.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Whoops, something just fell down there as I turned my computer around. Okay. So I just want to say, I just realized, oops.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Goodness.
I just realized that Ruby's in Arizona. And you know what? We all changed our clocks today and Arizona doesn't. So that's probably why Ruby's not here. I probably, if I had thought of that earlier, I would have texted her and reminded her, but I'm sure that's what happened. Ruby will probably show up just as we're finishing up. Whoops.
That's okay.
All right, good. Just ignore. Hopefully you guys can see me. I'm blinking in and out here while she's doing some work with the TV because I knocked the remote over. We lost the screen here. All right, so what I want to do then, as we get into this gathering, as we get into this teaching, is I want to start at the bottom of the reading that Shiryl just read for us. The very last thing in the reading said, and so I make this promise. I promise to let myself be led by love within an experience of joy to the full and complete realization of self. I didn't actually just make that promise recently. You know, I recently went through the step 6 quotes, probably November, December primarily. But I didn't just make that promise then. If you were to get my original Course in Miracles workbook, the one that I started in April of 2004, and turn to page 15, you'll find this promise written on the bottom of that page. And I don't know how many days of reading it took me to get to page 15, but I'm pretty sure it was still within the first week of reading the course. I mean, we're talking way, way back at the very beginning. I made this promise. I promise to let myself be led by love within an experience of joy to the full and complete realization of self. Later, you know, a couple of years later, when writing N.T.I. Luke, one of the things that came was that on this path, you really only have 2 experiences. It seems like many, but there are really only 2. One is willingness and one is resistance. So when I made this promise without recognizing it at the time, what I was promising was to always listen to my willingness. The other night when we were in Gentle Healing, Ron Raitz was talking about how there are two ways to be led to awakening, the carrot or the stick. John Mundy has also talked about one of the paths to awakening is called crash and burn. And if you're familiar with Byron Katie and Eckhart Tolle, you know that's pretty much what they did. They went crash. I mean, you know, like they were at their lowest moment. Eckhart was about to commit suicide, and the awakening came. So that's one way to do it. I mean, you know, if you want to, you can listen to that resistance, resist, 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 dig your heels in. But if you're being called by consciousness, I don't know that you can actually avoid awakening. You just get to go the painful way, the stick. I remember David Hoffmeister used to talk about awakening was like going down a water slide, and you had two ways to go down that water slide. You could try and hold on to the edge and not go down, and as you're going to go down anyway because of gravity, but you're just going to get your fingernails ripped out, you know, because you're trying to hold on to the slide as you're going down. Or you could throw up your hands and go, whee! Yeah. Yeah. And I also really remember in Peaceful Warrior, in the movie, when he at some point listened to his resistance and he left the teachings of Socrates and went back to partying, being with women, all that kind of stuff. And he had a motorcycle crash that shattered his leg. I don't think resistance has our best at heart. And I think that when we listen to resistance, we suffer needlessly. And this is why NTI said, you really only have two experiences on this path, willingness or resistance. And it also said you will recognize willingness by your joy. So this promise that I was led to make on page 15 of A Course in Miracles is I don't know, I don't remember. I've even gone back and read that page and tried to figure out what on this page made me write this. And I can't. But somehow this inspiration came. And again, this was very early on my path. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Very early on my path when I made this promise. I promise to let myself be led by love within an experience of joy to the full and complete realization of self. And what that means is that whenever this path of awakening in any way becomes a burden, becomes something I don't want to do, I've stepped away from my willingness, away from my joy, and away from this promise into resistance. You know, it's like I've grabbed a hold of the water slide. So what I want to do whenever I notice lack of joy regarding spiritual practice is I want to look within, find that resistance, dig it out, look at it with the light, let it go, and return to my joy. And that's what you just read, or what Shiryl just read, what you just heard, was me doing that in step 6. What I noticed was, first of all, I've always loved teaching, which for me is a part of the awakening process. You know, Regina doesn't teach to be the teacher. She never has. When I received that calling on that first day, the same day I watched the movie Shall We Dance, I was still very new to the path. You guys know this. I started in April of 2004. This was only November of 2004. I'd never even been in a course group or anything. I'd been at home studying by myself. I in no way saw myself as an expert, as somebody who should teach. I was fully a student who didn't know. I mean, that was fully who I was. And I received this calling to write with Holy Spirit and teach what I write. And what that calling also said was, this is how you will learn. So teaching for me, for whatever reason, has been a part of my path of awakening. It's been a part of waking my own self up. And I've always loved it. Every time, I mean, there have been days that, I'd like, oh, I don't want to go teach. But as soon as I sat down and started, I've always loved it. I've also always loved contemplation. When I sat down to contemplate, hours disappear and I don't even know where they went. I mean, just hours. I've always loved contemplation. But when the guidance started to come to turn to meditation, it wasn't the same. This is when the attitude of work stepped in. Meditation for me felt like a work, felt like an effort. It wasn't a love like teaching or contemplation. And so I started to look at that, and I started to notice, Michael Langford talks a lot about wasting time. And I started to notice that I was wasting time. And when I looked to see why I was wasting time, well, I was resting. That was what the mind was saying. I was resting. Like sitting back and watching this TV program is resting, where meditation is work. So I started to notice, or walking. I mean, I love walking, but I would go out and walk in the morning when there was this knowing that I was avoiding meditation. I was missing another day of meditation because walking was restful, joyous, pleasure, and meditation was work. And I kept seeing this contrast, and so this is what I took to my journal to look at. Where is this idea that meditation is work coming from? I didn't have this problem with teaching. I mean, I was scared the first time I took the mic and taught, but there's always been joy in teaching. I didn't have this problem with contemplation. There's always been joy in contemplation. And I know that may not be true for some of you guys. I know for some of you guys, contemplation may seem like work. So for you, everything I have to say about meditation may apply to contemplation. And for some of you, taking the mic and awakening together and teaching may sound like work, right? So it's not the meditation specifically. That's just where it showed up for me. It's this idea, that spiritual practice is work, right? This is what I want to look at. It's work. And if it's work, I mean, it makes sense that we don't want to work all the dang time. It makes sense, especially if we're people who still have jobs and we work, 8, 10, 12-hour days. It makes sense that on our time off from our work, we want to rest, whatever rest you do, watch TV, take a long bath, drink a beer, whatever you do. It makes sense that you want to do that instead of work. But what I came to see when I started looking at the idea that meditation was work, what I came to see is that that idea was not coming from my willingness. That idea was coming from my resistance. And it was an idea I had believed. So I needed to look at it a little deeper. I needed to let go of it. And so what you heard when Shiryl was reading was you heard, the contemplation I did around the idea that meditation or spiritual practice is work. And, one of the songs, the first song that Jonathan played was perfect when he was like, it's too much effort, I'm not going to do it. His songs were so perfect, that idea was there with meditation for me. It's too much effort, I'm not going to do it. It's too much work. So I had to go in and ask in a very genuine moment of self-inquiry, what doesn't want to do it? And I don't know about you guys, but I can feel the difference between the head and the heart. Like they can both answer. And the mind, the heart, the head can say, I don't want to do it. And then the heart just gives this silent feeling which is I do want to do it. And that makes it pretty clear what doesn't want to do it, right? So that's the first thing I had to do, was go in and see for myself, not just think this, but go in and see that this is saying, no, 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 I don't want to do it. It's too much work. I don't want to do it. You can't make me, right? Right? And Shiryl and Jacqueline have both told me they hear that you can't make me thought, right? You can't make me. But the heart's like, so seeing that in myself was really important. And as I looked again at the idea that it's work, what I also saw, which to me is very yucky now, I mean, the fact that I fell for it is a little yucky. There was this idea that awakening was out there in the future somewhere, you know, and that I had to work really hard to get there. And what that ignores, I mean, and I experienced this in contemplation, I experienced this in teaching, so it's a complete lie. What this ignored is that when I apply myself now, I get the benefits now. There's no way out there in the future. I mean, sure, there may be shifts that are going to come. They're going to take me to a greater and a greater awakening. There's no doubt about that. But it's not, when I go into contemplation, that feeling of clarity, that seeing beyond the mind happens now. It doesn't, I don't contemplate and contemplate and contemplate hoping someday to get there, right? It happens now. And the same thing is true of meditation. So this idea that I have to meditate every day for so many hours and then maybe someday, that was a lie, a very yucky lie. I had to see that when I take that time lovingly and with my willingness to go into meditation, it's just like taking that time willingly and lovingly to go into contemplation or to come here and teach. The benefits occur now. It's going into that awareness and knowing myself as I am now. It has nothing to do with the future. Not waiting for some paycheck someday, right? It's immediate payment. Another idea that I saw, and this one was really important to see, was there was this strong belief that I had to do it right and that I couldn't do it right. The funny thing about meditation, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this too, and again, for you it may be contemplation or something else. It doesn't really matter what spiritual practice we're talking about. This just came to me with meditation. It's the first time I experienced it. But the funny thing about meditation is that none of us are ever in someone else's meditation. I have no idea what meditation is like for you, and you have no idea what meditation is like for me, and we won't. But when you go into meditation, even though you have no idea what somebody else's meditation is like, when you go into meditation, if you're willing to listen, there's something there telling you that you're not doing it right, that everybody does it better than you, that everybody gets it deeper than you, blah, 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 blah. You know, there's this feeling that the way you practice inquiry is in what you're seeing in inquiry. And I've heard people say it's just I'm just in the head. It's just in the intellect. You know, that's the judgment. The inquiry isn't right. The meditation isn't right. The way that I would do awareness, watching awareness isn't right. The amount of time that I spend in meditation isn't right. My God, no wonder it feels like work. It's like you have a teacher standing there with a ruler hitting you on your hands while you're meditating. You're not doing it right. You're not doing it right, you know? How can you enjoy it? Or maybe for you that's contemplation, or maybe for you that's journaling or something else. It doesn't matter. If you're listening to that voice that's telling you you're not doing it right, stop it, you're not doing it right, how can you enjoy it? So I'll tell you what I got to. I got to, who cares if I'm doing it right? I'm going to do it anyway. I had to totally throw aside right. If I kept aiming for right, I kept listening to the voice that was judging. I'm not doing it right. I don't care about right. What I care about is love. What I care about is devotion. What I care about is the same thing I've always cared about until I hit this obstacle with meditation. What I care about is that I feel called and I want to say yes to that call. You know, I've done this in so many ways. I mean, as you know, there was that calling to write with Holy Spirit and teach, the opportunity to write. I won't go into that story, but it's so funny because the day the calling came, I didn't really know hardly anybody in the spiritual community, not hardly anybody. And the very next day, this whole thing opened up where I met David Fishman, and what I'm posting is getting posted on the Peace of God, and I'm invited to Palt. I mean, it all opened up after I said yes. It all opened up after I said yes. It wasn't there when I said yes. You know, and then there was that guidance to leave my job and to move. That was very scary, especially as a single mom. But I said yes. And then there was that guidance to read the New Testament and let it be interpreted. That was very scary. I told somebody recently that every single day when I sat down to write, there was this thought in my head, today's the day that the inspiration wouldn't come. But every day I said yes, every day I sat down, and every day it came. Then there was the inner Romana, and then there was moving to Pueblo. And then there was starting Awakening Together, starting a church. I knew nothing about starting a church, but Jacqueline Eckert shows up. She's a lawyer. She's done this before. I mean, everything was provided. And then the retreat house. I mean, how the heck are we going to do that? But guess where I'm sitting right now? In the retreat house. I mean, I have a pattern of being guided to do something that is beyond me. I don't know how to do it. I say yes, and then everything is provided. So why did I look at meditation differently? I don't know. Why did I think that I had to know how to do it right? I didn't have to know how to get a retreat house right. I didn't have to know how to start Awakening Together right. I didn't have to know how to sit down and write NTI right. I just did every one of those things out of willingness and trust. Those were the only two tools I had. Willingness and trust. Well, and a desire, which I'm actually going to call love. The love for this calling, the love for going where I'm called. Right? That's all I had. I never had right. And yet, I think it's all turning out pretty dang perfect. So what if I go into this next phase that I'm entering into now, which I'm calling extreme meditation, because for me it is. I will be spending hours a day in meditation, and I've never done that before. Just like I never bought a retreat house before, or never started a church before, or never wrote an interpretation of the New Testament before. I mean, who cares? I've never done it before. Who cares? I don't know how. Who cares? But I didn't see NTI as work. I didn't see coming to Levita and looking for a retreat house as work. We did that on Fridays. I looked forward to every Friday when we came down here and drove around and looked for a retreat house. I didn't see it as work. So this idea that meditation is work, it got in the way, and it had to be let go of. I had to see it as the same as everything else. It's just the next calling. It's just the next thing I'm being asked to do. And I want to say yes to this calling, just like I've said yes to every calling. And I don't have to know how to do it. You know, I don't have to know how to get from here to the final awakening. That's what I'm saying yes to. I don't have to know how to get from here to there. I just have to do what I've always done, which is follow my intuitive guidance in the moment with willingness, with love, devotion, and trust. And guess what? I do know how to do that. So I recommitted. I promised to let myself be led by love within an experience of joy to the full and complete realization of self. Notice I wrote that on page 15 of A Course in Miracles. I don't know what day it was for me, but early, the first few days probably of the spiritual path, I promised to be led to the full and complete realization of love. Or sorry, of self, the full and complete realization of self, it says. I promise to be led by love with an experience of joy to the full and complete realization of self. And I'm not going to quit now because now it's shifting to a different phase. There's only two experiences that we have on this path: willingness or resistance. And if you're called to awaken, you're called to awaken. You can go with the carrot or the stick. And spiritual practice isn't work. Spiritual practice is all about rest. You rest away from the mind in contemplation. You rest away from leaning on yourself when teaching in the sanctuary. You rest in meditation. So this idea that it's work and I have to rest from my spiritual work is just a big, fat lie. And the only way to see that that is true is to return to our willingness and do the spiritual practice that our inner intuition is guiding us to now. And again, I want to be real clear about that. I wasn't guided to extreme meditation till now. And I know sometimes when I let people know that I'm letting go of this and this and this, and I'm going into extreme meditation, I've seen the look on some people's faces like, oh, is that what I'm supposed to do now? You're supposed to do what you're guided to do now. You're not supposed to copy somebody else's guidance. I mean, maybe you are guided into extreme meditation. If so, then you know that. But if you're not guided into that right now, you're guided into another phase, and that's where you want to be. But look at anything that's keeping you from being where you are with joy, with love, with gratitude, with trust, with willingness, with devotion. Right? This is what leads us into the heart, not it's too much work. It's too much. And I loved it also. He says, I'm tired. I'm too tired. But notice the last song was he couldn't find his light. Because we don't find the light with those attitudes. So that's what I have to say today. And what I'm going to do now is turn the mic back over to Dawn so that she can play another song. This one is called Sacred Space by India Ari. And also, if you do feel to donate to Awakening Together, Dawn will provide that link. But please contemplate these two opportunities, willingness or resistance, while you're listening to this song. Is spiritual practice work, or is that what we really love? All right, thank you very much. So this is the part, oh, I'm getting a message from Ruby. She says, my sincere apologies. Has the time changed? Yes, it has, Ruby. And in fact, when you weren't here, that's what I realized. You're in Arizona and you probably didn't know we all changed our clocks. So thank you, Ruby. And I apologize for not remembering that you were in Arizona and you might not be aware. If I'd thought of it, I would have texted you. So we all understand why you weren't here. If we were in Arizona, we probably wouldn't have been here either. This is the time, however, when you all get to share based on today's homily. So, who would like the mic? And Dawn, you can help with this since I'm on Spotlight.
Carla, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm in the same boat. I turned my phone down so I didn't wake up until, it's interesting, a little while. I was awake. Spirit woke me up. Yet I didn't realize the time, so I didn't come. But I listened to maybe 5 minutes of your share, and I probably got many insights. And what I really heard is when you said there's two paths, resistance or willingness. I traveled the resistance, I'm not in a judging way, but I recognize it, of resistance for a long time. And I'm going to share, I had a dream and share one thing that came to me in a dream. Your healing is only limited by your willingness. So grow your willingness until you are fully healed. That's what I do every day. Every day, every choice, every minute is an opportunity to grow my willingness. And it's not even mine. I guess it is mine. It's the willingness of the Carla self to align with what has been there all the time, guiding me and directing me. Time. I still forget dozens, maybe. I don't think it's hundreds of times a day, but anyhow, so another thing I heard from you is that when you chose the yes, it opened the path. The path was, my sense is, for me, I'm the same thing as we grow, as we say yes to each experience, to each awareness, to each thing that happens. The path opens up. The path has always been there, but it's been blocked by my resistance, like my judgments or whatever. And I'm so grateful for the 5 minutes that I spent listening to you, and for the many, in that short period of time, the many awarenesses, the blocks, I don't know, I express it, but in that short amount of time, how many I got. It's amazing. I just feel like my life has become amazing, and I want to go I'm regressing probably going on, but I've been really I met you in like 2015. I remember you talking about the Waking Together Sanctuary and how we can all share. And I knew, and also I remember we were in a pool in Baja, and I knew that I was going to do that. I was going to share on that forum, but I resisted it. When I became willing, my life has really opened up. And so thank you for this 5 minutes, and I'm not really thanking you because we're one, really. I'm really thanking myself, my higher self, for creating it all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla. And yeah, I had forgotten that we had met in Baja. Boy, that was a beautiful place, wasn't it? I remember now. Thank you. Is there someone else who would like to share? Yeah, and that's really what we want to see, is that, again, like I said in the prayer, we're all here because we're devoted, right? I mean, we wouldn't be here if we weren't devoted. So why should we let that resistance get in? You know, let's remember what we love. Let's remember what we want. Let's remember that life is better with God, with truth, with consciousness, with self, whatever word works for you. Life is better with that. So let's not believe the lies. It's not work. It's our joy. It's what we want. It's why we're here. Thank you, and I will turn the mic over to Dawn.
Thank you for watching. This was our weekly gathering that we hold online. For more information, you can visit our website at awakening-together.org, or you can subscribe to our Awakening Together channel and click the bell for more notifications when we post our weekly gatherings. Thank you again for watching.